This episode of the Restoration Today podcast is brought to you by Pivot My Biz. Are you struggling to break through a revenue wall or frustrated with team dynamics? Feel like you're spending too much time working in the business as opposed to on it? Did you know Pivot members regularly see 2 times the revenue growth and up to 5 times the operating profits in their first 2 years with Pivot? At Pivot My Biz, we transform your business challenges into growth opportunities. We help restoration business owners to create proven processes, real success stories, and results that liberate them from their business. Find out more at pivotmybiz, that's biz.com. Hey restorers, thanks for checking out this episode of the Restoration Today podcast. I'm joined this week by gentlemen that both have green grass walls, and I don't know if they collaborated or not, but they are not from the same companies, although both companies also start with I don't know. But anyway, lots of similarities here. But all right, so I'm excited to be joined by Derek Stone from Actionable Insights and Tom McCardle with Airbotics. And these are 2 very different companies to have on the show at the same time, which is really exciting. But we're here to talk about how companies like Actionable and Airbotics can work together to help contractors get paid and kind of ease some of the pain points that contractors see when there's maybe new equipment coming out, or you're not sure how to bill for certain things, or what resources are out there, both as new innovative products come on the market like Airbotics versus, more pushback from adjusters or whoever is looking at your scopes of work and giving you pushback on your invoices, how companies can kind of work together to continue enhancing and helping contractors get paid in full for the work that you're doing and the equipment that you're using. So, all right, so I am going to toss it over to Derek first to kind of introduce himself and share a little bit of background in the industry, and then Tom, it'll be your turn, but Derek, go for it.
Absolutely. Hi, guys. My name is Derek Stone. I've been in this industry for 22 years now. I am an Xactimate certified trainer. I'm an IICRC Triple Master designee, and I am the Associate Director of Membership Resources for Actionable Insights. We're a 501c6 nonprofit and industry trade association. We're dedicated to the health and wellness of the insurance restoration ecosystem as a whole. We see it as our mission to help people in this industry fall in love with our jobs again.
Fall in love with our jobs again. I love it. Okay, all right, Tom, introduce yourself and a little bit about Airbotics.
Hey, everybody. So my name's Tom McCardle. I'm with Airbotics. I got into the industry back in 2008. Was with, as many of you know, was with Odorox back bringing in hydroxyls for the first time into the industry, which was super exciting, although I didn't know anything about the industry at the time. And the industry had no clue what a hydroxyl was. So that was a interesting start back in 2008. Did get the equipment in the Xactimate in 2009, which was exciting. And then really just full on invested in this cleaning and restoration industry, learned a ton as things grew and developed over the years. Built some great relationships, got to go out to some large loss projects. The machines were working awesome, and got to go to California for the wildfire. So really, really learned a lot and started getting into writing some articles and giving different education presentations. And eventually in 2020, 21, around that time, we said, hey, I'd always taught, and a big point was that air scrubbers and hydroxyl generators were like the perfect teammates to work together. You get the scrubbers catching the particulates, the hydroxyls handling the odors and VOCs. Said, hey, what if we put them together and added in all the added features that people have been asking about forever? The handles and the wheels for transport, the stackable, the GFCI outlets, all those types of little things to put in there. We said, you know what, let's make it happen. And that was the start of Airbotics. So that's how it came to be. Right now, the primary, my official title would be VP of Sales and Marketing, but wear a lot of different hats with the, education and distributorships and working with Actual Insights and the billing and all that. So, we're excited to be where we're at now.
We all work for small companies. I think we can understand wearing as many hats as you need to from day to day, right? You just make it happen. So Tom, I'm going to stick with you for a second. So from the manufacturing side, as you were creating the Airbotics equipment and machines, what were some of the pain points that you were trying to address in the creation of the equipment itself?
So, to be clear, Odorox is an amazing technology. It works extremely well. I have nothing at all negative to say about it. we were just in a position where, as the manufacturer, we said, okay, we went to the design team and said, listen, the inside UVC lamps, we had UVC experts from Europe and several places really help us as consultants to guide. I mean, it looks like a light, but there's some real science behind how these things work. The dwell time, the spacing in the chamber, the length of the chamber, how much energy is going into the lamps. There's a lot that goes in there. We said, okay, we've got this core inside that has to be done this way for this machine to deal with moderate severe odors that you come across in cleaning and restoration. But then we said, okay, we now design team, we want to make sure it has a pre-filter and a HEPA filter for the reasons I stated earlier, just perfect teammates working together. But then over the years, I just heard so much of the things that people were asking for. So like I said, wheels with, big wheels that, can go over power cords and curbs and up and down stairs and whatnot. With a handle, a retractable handle to help with it. A chamber that lifts out of the machine so it has an easy access to those lamps inside for cleaning, maintenance, and replacing of the lamps. A good control panel, stackable, a long power cord, couple GFCI outlets. Like all these little things, we said, it basically made this long list and said, hey, this is what contractors have been asking for the last 10 plus years. And we went to the design team and said, listen, we need the inside like this, and we need all this other stuff added to it. And so it was a lot of just back and forth working through, okay, how are we going to fit all of that and mold this machine to account for all these things you're asking for? And we had a phenomenal design team. Our team with Aerobotics did a great job. I mean, it was a lot of back and forth. And then, it's not as easy as just a box with stuff in it. There's all these little details to it. You change one little thing, something else has got to change. So we went through the whole process, and the end result, super happy with, because we feel like this is a very contractor friendly, designed for them machine that we really just were excited to bring into the industry. And it was putting all the pieces together was a little bit more difficult than it might look, but the end result, super happy with.
Perfect. Okay, so that leads well into Derek, because people listening to this are like, okay, that's a lot of different components for one piece of equipment now. Now we're no longer just a hydroxyl generator. Now we have multiple pieces of equipment that have been brought into one. And in Xactimate world, there isn't one specific line item that encompasses all of these things. So now contractors are probably listening going, well, how in the world am I supposed to invoice for this? I don't understand all of the components. How does my estimator know? How do the people in the field know? How do I relay this maybe to a remote estimator? All of those things. So that's kind of where Actionable comes into this discussion, because Aerobotics teamed up with Actionable to create what's an insight sheet. So Derek, I'm going to toss it over to you. Talk a little bit about the background of insight sheets, what they are, how big the Actionable library is of insight sheets kind of across the board.
Absolutely. So a big issue in our industry as a whole is claim cycle time. The average estimate bounces back and forth between the carrier and contractor almost 3 times. That costs the carrier an extended ALE time. That costs the insured as repairs are often delayed. That costs the contractor. You can't schedule repair work until you have those down payment funds, unless you want to end up being the bank. So reducing that cycle time before you have an initial agreed scope is a very impactful way for us to help all parties involved. And we here at Actionable have created several tools in our toolbox to help both sides minimize that claim cycle time. One of those, as you mentioned, is the Insight Sheet database. That's a set of invoicing templates designed for, complicated real-world scenarios that we experience in the world of restoration, to help, both fully document what you are doing within your scope, as well as how to appropriately itemize that in Xactimate. You have your initial line items. In this case, you have the Aerobotics unit itself, as well as all the related line items that you need to use that. In a restoration environment, typically you've got containment, you may have lay flat ductwork, you may have, 6-inch spiral bound reinforced ductwork for intake. All of the items related to that you often need to use in a restoration environment to utilize the equipment correctly, as well as situationally relevant line items. You may have that extreme case where you have to do additional containment or decontamination. We put all of these together in the insight sheet to help essentially express the process behind how you should be using this equipment and the way you can thoughtfully present that to come to an agreement more quickly.
So how many insight sheets do you have, do you think?
So we have hundreds of these on our website, getinsights.org, and all of these are related to macros that you can purchase directly off of our website and are also included within the actionable Xactimate profile. So that's our flagship product. It is a live estimating guidance profile within Xactimate that helps the estimator. It reacts to your scope as you're inputting line items. If you are using a line item incorrectly, it will provide you guidance on what's typically associated with that line item. If you are missing things within your scope that's usually related to that, we provide that omission guidance, suggesting items you may be missing in your scope.
So how often is it that you have a manufacturer reach out and work to partner with you to create an insight sheet or to help contractors know how to get paid for their equipment? Is this unusual? Is this more common than we know?
This was a fun project. Tom came to us with, something that at a basal level has been around. Hydroxyl units, they've become more normal in our industry, but he had something that was unique. In Xactimate, there are several line items for hydroxyls, but most of them are related to 1, 2, or 3 UV optics. No additional airflow concessions. You have to include an air mover. He's built a product that essentially didn't exist before. Not only has more UV optics, its own internal adjustable CFM fan, and the HEPA pre-filter. So essentially, you've got something that is well thought out and more functional for certain types of scenarios you might run into or in our industry. I've spent in my career untold hours with equipment setup, takedown, and monitoring. That's one of our most widely used line items in Xactimate. Just from the handles, the retractable handle for one user setup and manipulation, the handles for 2 users to pick up in a vertical or horizontal standpoint, the fact that you can detach the cord. I've seen so many damaged cords in our industry. It's frightening sometimes. It's just a very well thought out unit. The pre-filter is awesome just because the unit can also function as an air scrubber. And that's also, as Tom could tell you, just with his history in the industry, that's protecting the optics too. I'll be honest, as a young, naive technician 20 years ago, using deodorization equipment on site, if you don't have conditions of your job site ready for that type of unit and you fill the inside with dust, debris, insulation, you might run into some problems.
You might run into some problems. Spoken by somebody who knows. So Tom, from your side, at what point did you realize in this process, oh, we better figure out how contractors are going to get paid for this because it's going to be different? And how did you figure out what path to go down to educate? Because it would be unusual, I suppose, from the equipment side for, Actionable was a better way to educate contractors on how to get paid than listening to like the equipment manufacturer say, here's how you do it. So at what point in the process did you realize you needed help and then reach out to Actionable?
Yeah, so we obviously understood the hydroxyl generator line items. We understood exactly what they say can be billed and how to be billed. And it's something that, I had taught as part of the education classes for years. And so building this and putting it together and designing it, we kind of knew right off the bat, okay, this is different, and this is going to have more UVC lamps and it's, like Derek said, it's got its own fan now, and it's got to have and as much as we knew how to bill properly for hydroxyl generators, including the coverage area, how long they should run, and helping people really use it the right way, the right number of machines for the right length of time to get the job done, where we really did still strongly believe it, everyone kind of benefited from the client, the insurance company, and the contractor. It really, I don't need to go into depth on that, but there really was, everyone kind of wins when it's used the right way. Well, knowing that this didn't have its own line item, we were kind of in a position where we are not experts at all in that world. I mean, I've joked with Derek and his team, it's like I'm at kindergarten level, when it comes to other type of line items exactly. I mean, the details of how all that works. It's just not something I've really dove into with understanding and learning. I knew my little niche, and that was good for me. So I had heard a lot about Actual Insights. Got a chance, to meet Watley at the RIA event, a year before the product was made. and just kind of threw it out to him to explain, hey, this is what we've got. What do you think? He said, hey, when it's ready, come back and talk to us, and it might be something we can look at. And I just knew that if it was something that really had value, Actual Insight would be the perfect, company to look at it, give us their real honest feedback, and see if it's worth, are we going down the right path? We don't want to waste a whole lot of time barking up the wrong tree. So we said, hey, it was ready. Reached out to Derek and his team and said, listen, this is the machine. Why don't you guys try it out? Because we want your real feedback and see, is this something that's, worth looking into? As I mentioned, this isn't our expertise. And so we went to them. Derek, actually, what's funny is he lives right by, or within an hour, I think, of our warehouse. Yep. So we brought him up a machine. Yep, worked out great. So we just brought him up a machine. He played around with it, tested it, really, used his 20 plus years of experience to, okay, what is this thing? He said, hey, I think this is, like he said, something that, could use some of our help with properly leading contractors and the insurance side on how to bill. And that's kind of what kicked off, where we kind of passed it over, said, hey guys, we are happy with what we built, but now you just tell us and tell the contractors how to fairly and properly, guide them for their billing purpose. And that's kind of what led us here.
Perfect.
I think I summed that up right there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. So Derek, talk a little bit about your process for creating an insight sheet, whether it is for Airbotics or for somebody else. Like, how do you determine what sheets need to be made, and what is the process that you go through as you're kind of vetting whatever material it is? Because I know that some of these aren't vetted by, like, asked for by an equipment manufacturer, just making them on your own. So what is the process of creating these over
Absolutely.
time?
So as we all know, Xactimate is a very large and very complex piece of software. And it's truly a sandbox tool. It's meant to be designed, modified as needed for your particular circumstances. And in this case, as we were discussing in restoration, not only do you have, say that individual piece of equipment, you also have all the related line items or activities associated with what you may need to do on that job site. So not only does it provide you that functional, kind of framework of, this is our example scenario, these are the line items you'd use associated with that, as well as here are other line items for your more complicated or extreme cases. That helps both the contractor understand that they're not leaving anything out that they are doing and should be represented in their estimate, as well as helps provide a carrier understand what they are doing and how it is, reasonable and customary within the software. And this isn't just something that is created by contractors, if you will. Actionable Insights has a board of directors, and this is composed of, carrier adjusters, contractors, business people within the industry. So it is, everything that we do is peer reviewed, to see what is truly apolitical and a functional way to do something within, the norms of what's reasonable and customary.
Perfect. Okay. And talk a little bit about how Actionable Profile itself works. I've had Watley on, I've had Harrison on, I've done podcasts with them, but just give contractors a little bit of insight on, if they're not actionable members or use Actionable Profile yet, how does it integrate? How does it work? What's the starting point for using this and the value that it brings?
Absolutely. So the Actionable Profile is a profile within Xactimate. Our guidance lives in the Exact Expert drawer, which is the new drawer, the tab that you see on the right side of the screen. When you're estimating within the profile, it is reacting to your scope as you write it. Providing guidance based off of the line items you're using, suggestions when things might be omitted, suggestions when things are related to what you're doing but aren't seen in your scope, as well as warnings when things might be being used incorrectly. So the more clear, concise, and thorough your scope is from the beginning, not only are you going to be more likely to settle a claim more quickly, but everybody wins if you don't have giant supplements on the back end just from things that were omitted or things that were done wrong. So the closer you are in the beginning, the better that works out for everybody. And part of the Actionable Profile is our set of macros. We have 100 plus macros that are included within the profile. One of those is for the Airbotics unit. So if you have one of these in the field and you're wanting to test it or use it, you just go to your macro list, the shared list from the Actionable Profile, double click that. You have that list of line items. You just need to thoughtfully adjust based on your scope, input any additional information in the F9 notes that you need, and you're good to go. So you can go to our website, getinsights.org. You can sign up for a plan, set up a demo with myself or with Cole. We can go through the hoops with you and show you guys what it could do for you.
Perfect. I love it. Okay. All right. Taking off kind of aerobotics and actionable hats for a minute, kind of. One of my favorite questions to ask during a podcast, which I didn't prep you guys with ahead of time, is to share stories, because you both have been on job sites. You both have seen interesting things, been on interesting jobs, whatever that may be. So, Tom, I'm going to kick this one to you first. An interesting or favorite job that you've ever been on, something that's unique, something that maybe one of your customers did that you like heard a big story about, whatever that may be. Just kind of one of the most interesting jobs of your career in restoration so far.
So that's good putting me on the spot here with that. The good news is I've got a lot of stories. So if I had to narrow it down to one, what's funny is it's going back a long time ago. It was a Costco down in Miami, which was the largest Costco in the Southeast region, had a really bad fire about a week before Christmas. So when I say a huge Costco down in the Miami area a week before Christmas, they're doing $1 million a day. Mm-hmm. They're that big. What's funny, well, nothing's funny about it except the project went well. But what's funny is that the fire started because they had a little, like a flower stand, like, you know, that plugs in for flowers, that was right by the paper aisle, like with paper plates, paper towels, all that. And when they, at night, because this happened like 2:00 in the morning, whoever did something with the electric stuff around there, it caused a little spark. So that's the aisle that caught on fire. And fortunately, the sprinklers went on. Yeah, it was just that aisle. But imagine the entire paper product aisle just completely went on fire. So the smoke, the soot, everything was everywhere throughout the store. I won't make this a long story. Fast forward. So big franchise contractor got the job. They knew about us, called us. I personally went there and we set up, you know, and they said from the beginning, they're like, hey, can this really get the odor out of all of these contents? I mean, they had millions of dollars of soft, porous contents, books and mattresses. I mean, they had everything. Yeah. The food, you know, some stuff they had to throw away, right? But they were trying to keep like the majority of it. And they said, listen, if this doesn't work, you realize like basically you're so screwed if this doesn't work. Does it work? I'm like, oh, geez, yes, it's going to work. So immediately brought in all the equipment, set everything up. So we just kind of helped them with all of the machines around the entire facility while they did all their, they had over 100, I think it might have been 200 guys, 24/7 around the clock because they had to get the store back open. They said we had 4 days. I said, 4 days, we can do it. So we overloaded it with machines. After 2 days, it was a Friday night. I remember this very clearly. I literally was there the entire time, like sleeping on the floor. So on a Friday night, they said, hey, I literally slept on the floor. They said, hey, we're opening up tomorrow. And I freaked out. I'm like, what do you mean you can't? You said I had 4 days. No, it's going so well. It's great. We're opening up tomorrow. And so we had some big machines. We said, okay, we're going to leave this here. So we had to build like these big cardboard boxes that had like furniture in it. They were on pallets. We built it around the big machine. So it was height, like covering it. Then the wire went up to the ceiling, then all the way out to the generator outside. The machine was going on while people were in there shopping with other machines going. And I remember being at the front door Saturday morning, 10 o'clock, they opened and people came in. I literally heard things like, I thought this place had a fire, you know, and they were walking in and a work rate saved them a ton of stuff. And so it was so good because the business was back open. They saved a ton of contents. I mean, it was a absolute grand slam project. And to the point where that was years ago, it was probably 5, 6, 7 years later, I was at some insurance. It wasn't PLRB, but it was something. I forget now exactly what it was, but we were there because we're big on education. We like to educate the insurance side. You know, it's kind of like this. You know, we understand to a certain degree is like, hey, 2 line items, 1 machine. That's how this whole thing started. So we like to educate the insurance guys because there really is some big savings for them. I remember being at the booth, just staying there, and a guy walks by. He stops, immediately comes back. He goes, hey, I got a story for him. I'm like, yeah. And I saw on his badge, it said Costco. He was like some corporate guy. And I'm like, yes. He goes, listen, we had a fire. He tells me this story. And I just kind of nod my head listening. They were they were still talking about this story years later. And I looked back and I said, yep, I was there. I slept on your floor, you know, and it was awesome. So that kind of impact, that kind of success where everyone is just, you know, when something really, really bad happens at the worst time of year, and then it can turn into being, we were part of Obviously, we just did the odor, but we were part of the whole big solution. That was exciting and awesome. So that's a story that just always sticks in my head. I was there. I saw it. I love it.
I bet that contractor still has a contract with Costco all these years later from handling that so well and having the right partners. That's the beauty of partnerships in the industry, right? Is having the right people involved can be slam dunks for the customer and yield many jobs down the road. So, okay, Derek, your turn for story time. What you got?
Absolutely. I guess I'll give you a couple of brief ones related to, our discussion, aerobotics and deodorization in general. They let us test one of the units. I have a lot of contacts in restoration in Indiana, so I got to kind of throw the unit into some funky situations and see how it would do. Had a really bad cat odor job. Cats can be complicated in our industry, especially bad for buildings, especially if they're spraying, etc. After proper cleaning, using the unit for a few days, the house smelled new again. Had one where the owner had ferrets. Ferrets are fun; they're quirky or whatever, but very musky. And if they're not taken care of well, things can get funky. So that house smelled brand new after it was cleaned out. Another fun one, had a customer that had just purchased a camper. They got a really good deal because it was neglected. He bought it with a full waste tank and it sat in the hot summer sun last year without being taken care of. So you can imagine what it smelled like inside. So after that proper, of course, rinsing of the tank, left the unit in the camper for 3 days, smelled brand new, so it's, technology works. I'm a fan of it.
I love that those were your stories because you could have gone like outside the box and not blown up aerobotics. So that was awesome.
Right.
I love it.
Relatable.
And that is relatable. And that must have been a really good deal on the camper because I don't know that I would be willing to even try. That had to have been a really good deal.
Right.
So
yeah, in our industry, you're used to those sewage smells in basements, not so much in recreational vehicles.
No, and that's like an even smaller enclosed, like sun-baked space. That is just a whole different level. So, gosh. Okay, all right. So if you want to find out more about either of these products, getinsights.org, airbotics.com. Either of you have anything else that you want to add before we wrap it up? Tom, I'll toss that to you first. Anything else?
No, I think we're good. We covered it all. I appreciate the jumping on the podcast here. Definitely have been really, really appreciative of working with Actual Insights. Like I said, if I summed it up, we know how to make the machine so it works for the contractor, but as well as it works, guys want to get paid, and that's an important part of it. And we're really blessed and happy to have Actual Insights step in and help us on that side. So now contractors have a machine that works, but now they can help get paid and build it correctly and fairly for everybody. So it's a great partnership. We're happy for it.
Awesome. All right, Derek, anything else?
Absolutely. Check out our website, getinsights.org. You can set up a demo for the actionable profile, purchase macros off of our website, check out the insight sheet database that we've created. We have an excellent Facebook group, Xactimate Ninjas. There's 20,000 plus users daily, estimators bouncing ideas back and forth on how to best estimate for what they're doing. Otherwise, keep learning and growing, guys.
Awesome. All right, gentlemen. Well, thank you so much. I look forward to seeing probably both of you at some shows coming up. We're still in spring show season here. So I hope you both have a great rest of your day.
Hey, you guys too.
For more Restoration Today and the latest news, visit our website, cnrmagazine.com, and find the latest episodes of the Restoration Today podcast on your favorite podcasting platform.